All right, all right. Welcome, everybody. This is the big CyberBulls show. It's live stream right now, just right after the Tesla shareholder meeting. And what a meeting it was. There's so many great big news that I'm very, very happy to share. We've got Alexandra Mertz joining us. We have Jeff Lutz and Christian Valente. We've got other people joining us as well. But let's start with you, Alexandra. You were physically there. You got to talk to Elon. You asked a fantastic question about gross margin, the automotive gross margin and the energy gross margin. How high can it go if they can incorporate FSD and other software as a service? Tell us what you heard and what he said. I also got the clip. I can play that later, but just congratulations, Alexandra.
I mean, I'm still on cloud 7. I cannot tell you. I can't believe, oh, there's Xander. I mean, I don't know how many times I kissed Xander today, but I did all day long, right, Xander? I love this. I mean, I don't even realize yet, right? I don't realize I spoke to the genius of my lifetime, and I can't process it yet, but it's going to come. And I forgot my glasses, I just realized, but there you go. Doesn't matter. On the phone, without glasses, in a mess, it doesn't matter. Exactly, thank you. So, yes, so the question is from Jeff, so that everybody knows about it. What happened is I wanted to do an in-house financing question. I'm actually very happy that I changed my mind because that one was asked before I did, and he was like, oh, no, it's the banks, we can't do it by ourselves, whatever. I mean, I don't think that's true, but that doesn't matter. I wouldn't have gotten a good answer. So when I was searching for a question, because I felt somehow mission to ask a question, I asked my Twitter subscribers for input, and Jeff just hit it out of the ballgame again. Now he's just doing it again and again. And his question was this peak margin in both automotive and energy, and obviously the automotive including software as a service. And I mean, I think, you know, with my German, French, whatever mix accent, and me asking the question quickly, and it was a longer question than all the others. What really, you know, it made me happy is I just went back on it when he didn't give me the answer I wanted, and just re-insisted and asked different way and made sure he understood what I was really after. And I think we all could learn so much of it. This was a question I didn't hear before, and it's the answer I was looking for. Of course, it's best guesses, and we don't know really when it's going to happen yet, but for automotive, including the services, he went to 80%. And I mean, 80%. I had to nail it out of him, right? It was like, yeah, 5 times more this. And yeah, that's not what I want to hear. So, woman on a mission, just watch out. And then the other one I really appreciated was energy, because you remember from months we had these people on Twitter going for 50%, 50%, 50%. And I was always having a bellyache. I mean, love the mega packs, love all that they do, but there's competition in that field, and there are certain moments where, you know, you just have to get real. And his key number was 25% as peak margin in energy, and that's a number I can perfectly work with because it's going to be huge volume. But our whole modeling just got so much easier, right? We have 2 numbers that are the peak numbers, but that are really solid numbers. So I'm very pleased I did it. Like I said, I don't even realize yet. I spoke to Elon, and I had the guts to go back and back and back until I had what I wanted. So so that's it. And very happy I did it. Can't believe this happened. Will cherish this day for a long, long time. And thank you all for your support, because I mean, you carried me there, right? I remember Saturday I sent you my first video of me trying to phrase the thing, and you know, got comments. And this was a teamwork, and I did it. Thank you very much.
I loved it. I think it was one of my highlights, of course, but it was a conversation. You were having a conversation with him, but you know, at the end of the day, he answered the question. The gross margin for automotive can go as high as 80% when you combine FSD and margins. Come on, man. That is unheard of. Software level margins. We needed for him to say that, because we've all kind of knew that this is where they were headed. Hardware, software, eventually will be a software margins. This is big news, and I can't wait when we get there. This is great. What do you guys think?
I thought it was great. I love the follow-up, the kind of the back and forth until you landed on an answer. And I think even in a follow-up venue, we can kind of ask them, okay, now could you split hardware and software, and what would be the, you know, where do you see your peak auto margins getting to with and without SaaS? That'd be another one you can even add on in the future. It's kind of like planning future questions, but it was one of, to me, one of the better kind of like questions to get finally hear that out of, Elon representing the company and the leadership team. So well done.
Thank you so much, Jeff, and thank you for all your support.
Mm-hmm.
It was great, Alexandra. I'll just say real quick, when I saw you and I'm like, oh, I knew somehow she would get the question off. Somehow she would get picked. I don't know what they do to get who gives the question, but I said, I know somehow Alexandra's going to get a question out. And I thought you were awesome. And you were great because he seemed like he didn't understand the question and you didn't phase. You were like right back one like a prosecutor. I wanted it again and you were stone cold and I thought you were amazing and you finally got it out of him. So great job, and you wouldn't give up, and I'm so proud of you. Amazing.
Thank you.
And don't
so
worry,
much.
the shoulder that you had to put into Gary to get in front of him in the line, you didn't see that on camera.
He was like, yesterday evening, he was like, oh, there's a strategy to it. He tried to explain me, and I had watched the old ones to see, where they put the mics and all that. And so for an hour and a half, we had to wait to get in. It was horrendous. It was stuffy. It was hot, and then everybody was tired because the factory tours were over and there was nothing else to do than now wait. And so we sneaked ourselves into the first third, right? Thank heaven there's always a follower who recognizes you to do a picture. So they made another 2 yards forward and whatever. And Gary arrived very, very late. And so when we finally got in, I had a couple of people who was in front of us told him, look, I need a corner seat. I needed about 10th or 11th row on this side and that side. So the first ones that went in reserved our spaces, the two of us, Lori and me. And by the time we came, we just had the perfect place. And then Gary arrived much later, was all in the back, all on the thing, like, very, very cool. And I thought, well, you do what you do, I get there. And when I saw the girls arriving with the mic, I don't know what I did. I got up and I just walked there, and I was number 3 on my side. There were 3 rows, 3 corridors between the chairs, and so ours was the left side. And then it always switches from one to the other. So I could see Meet Kevin was in front of me, and then it switched to the other side. Then was Eva, and then was my turn. So you have this moment where you go, oh my God, this is going to be me. So just, stay there, don't fall apart, don't have those knees shaking, just do it. And I still can't believe I did it. I mean, it's not that heroic, but for me, it was a big step and I absolutely loved it.
Okay,
Great
so
job.
let's keep both Xander and Alexandra. I know you guys have only 15 minutes with us, so please share with us what you thought came out of the meeting, what your experience was. He confirmed advertising. He showed the Optimus bots. He talked about the economy. What were you guys excited about?
Go ahead, Xander.
Yeah.
You're in front row.
Ladies
Nah,
first. First of all, thank you so much to the community and Tesla Boomer Mama for making the networking to get me there, and Sad as well. We had such a great time, and I really appreciate it. In terms of takeaways, I really love the JB chant to start off. To start it off, that was epic. I didn't take any notes, so I still have to process. But CyberTruck coming is incredible. I thought the questions were great. Advertising, I was surprised that he internalized it, and then he looked at the reaction that they gave.
And I mean, we were screaming, right?
Yeah,
the crowd was roaring. It was wonderful. It was like he never expected that, because if you only listen to Twitter, it really sounded like 10% wanted advertising and 90% didn't. But you were in this crowd. It was the other way around. We just out-screamed them, and it was absolutely fantastic. And he was surprised by that.
Yeah. I thought that was great. And then I was the last thing that really stuck with me was at the very end when he thanked the shareholders that have diamond hands essentially, and not the paper handers. And it felt like it really means a lot to him. Yeah. So that was my big moment
Yeah.
for actually
I
connecting
agree
Elon.
with you. Completely agree with you on that one, because one of the sentences I said at the beginning when I said, for our shareholders, it's not easy. We stay not because it's easy, because it's hard, and he really acknowledged that. I had that one moment where he looked at me and I looked at him, and we were both like, and absolutely loved it. But the roar for the advertising. I mean, I looked at a couple, because there were a couple of other Twitter influencers that were there that are against advertising. They were like looking around, just couldn't believe what was happening. Hi, Sat. How are you? Thank you for having me. Sat was sitting just next to me when I was nearly fainting.
Hi. I'm glad you were able to ask your question.
Thank you. Thank you. I love that.
Yeah. Love the bull, Xander, behind you. That's very fitting.
Oh, I didn't even notice that. Look at that. I thought you'd like the swag, the.
Did you buy
Nice.
stuff? I couldn't believe the queue of people waiting to buy the merch. My gosh.
We bought it at the very end, so no line.
Can I ask a question for everybody here?
Go ahead. Yeah.
After that interview, the shareholder meeting, after you saw him CNBC, I know, Christian, you said that his performance at the shareholder meeting will help guide you what you're going to think. But for me, I'll start it off. I am just so bullish now. I've always been bullish. I'm all in as always, but this call was much needed after a really tough year. They reiterated all sorts of things that I needed to hear. It's going to be an amazing kind of turnaround once the macro releases. They're kicking out of the park. He said all things I need to hear. The 80% gross margins, robotaxi, the explanation where it is and where it's going. People say that that's an option play. If it happens, great. But even if it doesn't, honestly, it's going to happen. It is happening. And I'm going to make a shit ton of money. And I'm so pumped right now. And I trust and love how Elon answered every one of these questions. I really am just very, very excited, because I thought that he needed to answer this. Variable pricing, we're going to advertise. We definitely will show the bot video was out of the park in terms of the exceptional improvement and how fast it's changed. And these are real. These are not staged. None of this is staged. So anyways, I'm really excited. What do you guys think?
Quick question. Did he say that they will contribute anything towards the financing? I think that was one of your questions as well, Alexandra.
Yeah, so somebody asked that question. Yes. They said the thing is that if they would stem it all by themselves, they don't have the resources for it. It would need 100 billion. But,
exactly. I get that. But will he contribute?
Well, I mean, they already start contributing, right? They're already doing $1 billion now. So I do believe there's still specific things, but he certainly didn't commit to doing more, which I really think is a mistake, because he said, well, it's going to be difficult to do the asset-backed securitization of that money backwards. It's not true at all. If Tesla decides today that they work with one of the big security firms to do that, to do ABSs, it's done tomorrow. So I felt he was a little bit sneaking out of the question and wanted to just kick it down the road to the banks again, which is prudent, no doubt about it. But I do believe that I know they're internally working. I heard it today from other people. They're internally working on looking for solutions in-house. So he didn't commit on that on stage, but I do still believe that is in the books.
Yeah, I agree with you, Alexandra, but he seems like he doesn't want to get into that any more than what he's doing. Now, you could be right, and maybe they get there, but he's pretty adamant. He wants the banks to do it, because I think he's worried about owning that and something goes wrong, like a major, and then he's on the hook for it. So I don't think he punted, but he really doesn't want to go there if he doesn't have to. So I agree.
Completely agree. Completely agree. Yeah, completely agree. I'll let you go, because there's lots of happening still here. But I was so happy I was the first ones to share with you, because you're really a big part of all this. So thank you very much. See you soon. Take care.
See you. Great
Thanks,
job,
Alexandra.
Great job.
Appreciate you. Before we lose you, Xander, tell us a little bit more what you're thinking. So you only have a few minutes with us too, right? Or where are you headed? Where are you guys going?
Oh, there's some after hour activities or after party activities. So, everyone wants to go and schmooze and meet. I really, I got to give a big shout out to Chase there. He said hi in the comments, and he invited me and got me as the +1. So But
Oh,
why don't we
gotcha.
hand it off to Sat? He took notes, so he'll do better than I.
I took notes too. Go ahead, Sat.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, no, I gotta thank William for giving me his +1. Pretty awesome guy, and yeah, and great tour. It's too short, but though we wanted it longer. But there's a lot of stuff that he covered, and I think a lot of the Q&A was also really pretty good. I like the question on Tesla energy and going over power walls and utilities. I think he didn't really cover much of that. So hopefully they're gonna get on top of that sometime, or there was some information on that. But I liked his point on the lithium processing versus the mining, and the focus has been kind of off on that. So I'm glad he reiterated that part, that where they're focusing on, where they maximize the pressure points or the pain points of their production. So.
Okay. Well, I don't know. Let me start with you guys. I seem to be the most excited of all five of us right now. But okay, let's start with the big one, right?
Sure.
Oh, sorry, Jeff. Yeah, Elon's not going anywhere, and his answer, which is what you tweeted out earlier today. I don't know how you knew this, Jeff. He said we're going to be focusing on AI, and we need to make sure this happens. We are an AI company, and he basically repeated what he answered to your tweet. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think this is one of the biggest things that is missed by somewhat casual investors in fintech media, which is the underpinnings of a great AI company. And to be very specific, it being threaded in actually everything they do. If you hear Elon talking about this publicly, and you see the public release of FSD, and you see his early investment OpenAI. But you'd have to think, when the door closes and he's with one of his executives, let's say it's his head of manufacturing or his head of supply chain or head of engineering, what do you think he's doing with them? He's pushing them, he's pressuring them on how they can use AI tools within their work that they do to be better, faster, cheaper, higher quality than the conventional approach to how they're doing, product development or manufacturing today. So that's why the AI thing is so powerful, and it's most widely missed is how much they're probably using it internally. But my three key takeaways, one of them was around the AI, but Elon, said, "I'm CEO. I'm not going anywhere." And he brought that up, Herbert. I think that was one of my key takeaways. The second one was he was confident, and he talked about macro, but he said, Tesla's going to be fine through it, and it's going to come out on the other side much stronger. And he spent more time talking about how much better Tesla would do versus it leaving it kind of open and uncertain, and spending and harping more time on the macro. He mentioned the macro, and he spent more time focusing on how Tesla would be in much better shape coming out on the other side. I thought that was good. And then my third big takeaway was the confirmation of CyberTruck. So it is mid-May. All of that tooling, everything has to be in the factory at this point. Suppliers have all their production tooling. From a schedule perspective, I would anticipate that suppliers have started now. If you're making electrical components for CyberTruck, they're already in mass production right now. And I believe mechanical suppliers that feed the Tesla factory will be starting, and based on just my understanding of project schedules, they would be starting in a number of weeks. And I would anticipate, if they're doing deliveries in Q3, now he did say later this year, but if they are doing them in Q3, that the factory would be starting sometime in July or August.
Nice. Okay, Christian, tell us about. You heard him say, "I'm not going anywhere." I don't know who here even participate in this rumor mill of whether or not he's leaving or not, but he clarified.
I didn't think he was leaving. A lot of people were just having some fun with it. There was a report, but yeah, he's not going anywhere. I didn't think he was going anywhere. So my high level thoughts, general thoughts. I thought it was the best shareholder meeting he's ever done. He was confident. He was relaxed. He answered the questions. I think he did a great job, and the audience that was the best shareholder audience I've probably seen. Now I'm being biased because we had Alexandra in there and Xander was there and Sat never missed one, so that's awesome. He keeps the record alive. That's great. Congratulations, Sat. So
Yeah.
for me, Optimus is huge. The reason I like Optimus, and remember the way I think of it from an investor viewpoint. Optimus to me, we see the progress. It's walking now. It still might be a few years down the road, but that is going to be easier to get across the line than anything else because it's basically a bot. It's not going to need like regulation. It's not going to hurt anybody. You know, it's going to be controlled. It's going to be so much value. And you can see it happening as we see it going and going and going. I'm not worried about governments getting in the way. Oh, maybe you could do it. Maybe you can't. Anybody that wants that and it's valuable and it has a great use, you're going to be able to deliver that. And that's like we talked about it. That is, and I think Elon mentioned it, that will be almost the value. He said that would be the greatest value driver for Tesla, more than FSD robotaxi. This was different. He was saying Optimus, and I love that because that's something I can see and that's something I can understand. The other thing, CyberTruck, for a short-term catalyst, he reiterated now for like the fourth or fifth time that CyberTrucks are coming out this year. Now, I don't know how many we'll get, but the fact that he keeps saying this year Cybertrucks will come out, to me, that's a great sign that we will see production of Cybertruck at some point in this year, hopefully in the third quarter. But even if it's a little bit later, it's definitely coming. And that's going to be, you know, a big deal. So I think that was great. Energy was great. That's another thing. He talked about margins. I love it. 20 to 25%, 30% margins on energy. That's great. They're great margins. And he talked about it being quasi-infinite. So there's so much demand for that product. If you can put 100 billion out and you're going to make, you know, 20, 25, 30 billion on that for every 100 billion you get out there over time, that's going to be a great profit engine. And again, no controversy. People love stationary storage. It's going to be needed. So again, that's a great driver with no controversy. So those are the things I focused on. So from a high level, I was really impressed. We'll get probably into Faber's interview on CNBC. I thought that was a fascinating interview. There was moments in the interview, we'll get to it later, but that was riveting TV. And I think that interview might go down as one of the great interviews in history of Elon Musk, because Faber, you know, I'm not saying good or bad. Faber gave some hard questions and Elon answered them. And some of them were difficult. And he went there. He didn't dodge them. I thought, you know, Elon, you know, we know Elon's Elon, but Elon is really a different kind of dude. He just is. He's just not, you know, he's different. And not different bad, just different. And he's coming from things from a different completely point of view. The way he answers the questions, it seems like what we talk about, and maybe the diehard loyalists get it. And I get it too, I understand it. But there's a lot of investors, especially institutional investors, that are now with that interview will learn a lot more about Elon because he hasn't done a lot of these, right, on network TV. So I think that will show a lot of people the character of the man. It'll show where he's coming from. He's not really coming it from a money and power grab. He's coming it from, he wants to be useful, you know. But again, there was moments in the interview, we'll get into it later, that were just riveting to me. And I think overall, Elon did very, very well. But there's still things that I think a lot of the public are going to learn about Elon, that they have to get used to him because he's not like us. And especially it came out in that Faber interview. It showed that he's an amazing genius level guy, but he is operating on a little bit of a different take than we are. So
thanks, Christian. Yeah, so I do want to show the bot demo, the video, and I also want to talk about the CNBC interview. But while we have Sat and Alexander here, you guys went to the actual tour. What did you guys see, and what was your most impressed? And did you see anything new?
Yeah, we saw robots, we saw Cybertrucks, we saw it all.
You're a little loud there, Xander.
Just kidding.
Yeah, what did you see? Come on. What was it? What was the tour? Anything new from last time you were here?
No, it was very, very limited, and it was just seeing some of the Model Ys coming off the line. So, and it was very, very brief. So it's a disruption to the factory, and there was a lot of people. So they just kind of gave people that haven't been to the factory previously a sneak peek of what it's like. So we saw the start and the robots picking up cars, and but this isn't like anything secret.
Okay. And then Sat, you've been to, as we've been saying, to almost every single Tesla shareholder meeting ever since 2010. What did you take away from this one, and how did it compare to those ones?
Yeah, it's the gradual build-up and the occasional blow-up of a lot more stockholders. And the events is getting bigger and bigger, and the enthusiasm. Even just getting JB back, it's that kind of ovation you only got with Elon. So it's definitely expanded to the team, and you see the expansion of the people and the extent of the community too. And then getting to even see people that you know off the social media platforms that you follow or you comment with each other, like meeting them in person. That tells it all, because I never had that experience where you can see people and you know people and well, I talked to you there, but I haven't seen you. So it's a build out of this of the community and the strength of the community that I really see that's changed quite a bit. It's become more like a gathering of the community where we're all over the world and people flying in and committing to just seeing this part and seeing through it. I also want to make a comment is that I think Tesla is a step ahead of everyone, more so than what we think.
I love it. Hey, Sat, is it the new Berkshire? You know how everybody does the pilgrimage to Berkshire? Do you see this in a few years being a pilgrimage?
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, because he referred to Warren and Charlie.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Q&A that Elon does is kind of similar, because no CEO is just sits there and does Q&A in the way he does, where it's not like that long, and it's usually very strict, restricted. He just goes off and lets people and do any questions basically on almost anything, and it's kind of similar to what Warren and Charlie does. So, and this is the thing: if you're not confident about what you do as a business and your vision, you're not going to be able to do that. Like, he has to be really smart to know every part of the business, and it's really hard to wrap around every part of the business. There's so many different things that he's doing. So he's really brilliant, not just because he's done this, it's because he's really smart, and people underestimate. They don't understand the amount of stuff that he's coordinating: SpaceX, Twitter, Boring Company, and Tesla. Like the amount that he's taking on, people don't realize that's not normal. That's not normal.
So Martin came up and ended. Oh, there you go. We got some feedback. You guys know that we're sharing rooms. Martin came up and tried to end it with 3 questions to go, and then we ended up with like 6 or 7 questions after that point. So I think the amount that he gives to the community and to let people ask the questions, it's incredible. The access just from Twitter itself. You heard someone ask for a 2-hour interview. So during the Q&A. So he
was John, Dr. Know-It-All.
Dr. Know-It-All.
Yes, that's right.
He said he would do it too.
Yeah. He's been great. He responded in feedback to the folks. So we got lots of topics. Do you guys want to talk about advertising? Do you want to continue talking about the bot? What do you guys want to do?
We could go to advertising. I'll also say Elon never says no. He said that he would do an interview with either Dave Lee or Tesla podcast. That hasn't happened. He can't say no. He's so generous and he wants to be nice. He said no to the selfie. But other than that, if you give him a request, it may take 20 years before it happens, or 10 years or 5 years, but he can't say no. Like, if you ask it, he'll be like, sure, okay. Like, it's just in his nature, right? Where I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. But
except no photos.
He's got to say yes.
He says no to photos. That's the only no
right, okay. But I mean, other than that, he tries to say yes. Oh, okay, whatever. I thought that was.
What did you guys think about? Yeah, go ahead. Let's talk advertising. I mean, he said yeah.
Advertising was great. Again, this is just my perspective. Elon is brilliant, but it seems like, and I think I didn't really get this, but again, you can push back on me if you think. I don't know who he's around, because the fact that he doesn't know that there's a lot of people in the community that actually do want advertising, when he said, wow, I didn't realize a lot of people in the crowd would want advertising, after there's so many people on Twitter talking about advertising. It's not 10%, it's like 50-50. So that shocked me, that he doesn't understand that. So there's things that I think that he knows that he doesn't know. And it's not because he's not smart. It's because he's probably so focused, like Sat said, with Neuralink and Bora Company and SpaceX, and he's so locked into all that. None of this other stuff that we talk about gets into him, which is good and bad. Because the bad part is he acknowledged that advertising probably makes a lot of sense. Because he said there's probably a lot of people that don't know about our product. That's what I've been saying. It's what everyone's been saying. Like, if you have a great product and no one knows you have the great product, there might be people that don't know that you have the great product, that want the great product, that if you gave a little bit to them, that would bring them to the product. So to me, that's like a simple idea, and he got it. He got it on the stage. David Faber brought it up to him. He said, again, that makes sense. He hadn't thought about how he's going to implement it, but if he said, if we do it and it's educational and it's entertaining, yeah, that'd be great. So I think that's great because it's a no-brainer, and I'm glad Elon acknowledged that he's willing to try it and see what happens. So I think that's a great step, and I think if he does advertise, he's going to see the results are amazing. If they do a good ad somewhere, like people that never heard of Tesla, and there's a lot of them, will see that. They will see the car. They'll be like, wow, that's a sharp-looking car. I didn't know it was the safest car in the world. And there will be more demand than they have now. That's for sure in my mind, for sure.
Go ahead, Jeff, and then I'll want to respond.
Yeah, is my audio okay, Herbert?
Yes, oh, great.
Great now, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'll just be really brief because I think I agree a lot with what Christian brought up. It's just, to me, and I've said this actually a couple months ago, the awareness on Tesla both being the safest, vehicle to be inside of in case somebody hits you or you're in a collision, and of course with FSD, collision being preventative of collisions. Those aspects where Tesla is the safest car, just not known. I would say, we have this Twitter bubble. We have this bubble on Twitter of many thousands of people, maybe millions, but maybe thousands of people. And outside of that bubble, those facts are just not known. People think Volvo is the safest car to be inside of. They don't understand collision avoidance. They don't understand what FSD is. And if those points could be articulated in a very simple way that can get across to literally billions of people that could be consumers of this media, that small amount, it can be done in a controlled way that could have huge implications on the company. That when you think about the company, you think about its growth, you think about it's grown to where it is today, and then you're thinking about, okay, now we're at 450K cars a quarter. How do we get to 600K? How do we get to 800K? Is it just going to happen naturally, or are there other things that need to happen portfolio wise and awareness wise? And trying this out and trying to spend out and measuring the effectiveness of it, I can't, what's wrong with trying that? Especially when you're talking about the safety element of a Tesla, which I believe is the key thing. They've spent all the money in R&D to do it. They spent it in software. They spent it in their body engineering team, and they spend it in unit economics of every car that they make. Why not reap the benefits of it on the other side?
Okay, well, so I have a different take than both of you guys. So first of all, it's not like Elon did not know about advertising and how it works, and that you all of a sudden a Meet Kevin comes up and says, "Hey, you should advertise," and he goes, really? That now it makes sense. That's not what happened, guys.
Exactly.
It's not what happened.
No.
That's what he said on CNBC, Herbert.
Yeah.
He said he made the decision in the meeting.
Yes. He made the decision in the meeting, but it's not like they don't understand that, there's a thing called advertising, and advertising could possibly teach people things that they don't know. Of course they know this thing. So let me explain to you what I think happened. Right. So number one, the mission is to create a sustainable energy, which is the lower price car, and get the cost of the Teslas to be lower than the average of all auto cars. That's always been the case. If you follow this pricing strategy for Tesla for the several years, it's always tracked to the average sales price. And then so now he had to respond with price cuts to be able to get to that point. And then with advertising, he did say something like, it's ironic that Twitter is highly dependent on advertising. But when he brought up the concept of safety and education, sure, we can try that, but you can almost see it in his voice that he he doesn't think that advertising is going to be this panacea that's going to solve everything. And the issue for them is not it's meeting production with demand. They're selling every car they're making. There is no demand issue, but when there is, they reduce their adjust pricing, just like you do with the auto manufacturers out there who do adjust prices despite all the massive advertising that they're doing. If that was advertising was great, then no ICE car would need to reduce prices at the dealership. Why would they need to do that if you just advertise?
Herbert, ICE cars have been around for 100 years.
No, I mean, any car, I get you. There's the education that needs to happen. I'm not against advertising. Let's be clear. I've been saying this. I want Tesla to do advertising, but I just get to the notion of, oh, Elon didn't know this and Tesla didn't know this, and they're just now going to do it because that's not what happened. There is a specific...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Herbert,
well, you said you agreed with what Christian was saying, and that's what Christian was saying. So that's what I'm saying.
No, here's what I was saying. This is a friendly debate. Herbert, just listen to this very clearly. Elon said, I never done it that way. The man is stuck never doing it that way. So to make that pivot, he needs somebody, and it's us at a shareholder meeting screaming, we want it. He says it's important to listen to the shareholders. So you keep fighting us on this. And the other thing you're not getting is every unit that we can sell for a price that we don't have to cut because maybe advertising could help is money that could be plowed back into your research and development. It's shareholder value. We're not keeping up prices artificial. If the clearing price can be a little bit higher because the net incremental buyer at the margin that didn't know about the product now knows about it, your supply demand meets a little higher. So if you can get a little bit of higher cost and keep a little bit higher margin, that's a little bit more money that you can throw into Tesla bot. That's
it's
a little
an
bit
obvious
more money
statement. It's such an obvious statement.
It's not obvious because he said, I didn't think about that. Somebody,
okay,
don't laugh.
Fine.
Somebody on this stage, please tell me that Elon Musk said, I didn't really think about it, but you're making sense now that I'm thinking about it. He said the same thing with favor. It kind of makes sense.
Please,
Am I imagining that? Elon, I know he understands the concept of advertising, Herbert. He understands it. What I'm saying is he hasn't implemented it. And just today is the first day that he thought he might implement it. He doesn't even have a strategy for it yet. But it's dawning on him that maybe I should do this because people, like I said a couple of weeks ago, is it fair that a person in Nebraska that might want that car to save its family doesn't know about it and only the rich people in California get it? Somebody in Nebraska, someone in Iowa might want the Tesla if they knew about its safety issues. So why wouldn't you just do a little bit of an incremental spend to maybe get some people that would die for that product and could save their life that really want it and might pay up a few $1,000s more to get that Tesla? That's what I'm saying. I understand your point of view is different. Elon was the final judge on it. He said he's going to try it. So let's see what happens.
I just had one quick thing. Sorry, just what they've been right up to this point, I think, and maybe they're right even beyond this point if they don't advertise. But to get from 200K a quarter to 400K a quarter, they really didn't need that. Then there was awareness, but I don't know. I'm not smart enough to know. I would have to go out and do tests and trials to understand what is the awareness of EVs, what is the awareness of how they work, how they charge, what is the awareness of Tesla and safety, and if the awareness is low, what do you do to solve awareness? You inform the public. And I just don't know if that's going to be needed to go from 400 a quarter to 600 to 800K a quarter, because that's what, I don't know the answer to that. I would want to get the data to understand it. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah, I felt like...
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry,
Christian.
I was
going to say real quick, I think if you're going to do millions of units a year, you need some type of awareness. If you're going to do 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 million cars a year, you're going to need some type of awareness. Go ahead, Xander.
I think you witnessed somebody whispering in his ear about, hey, we know you hate advertising, but you now own a company that is fueled by advertising, and we got to witness that rationale happening on stage. And Great point. Perhaps he connected the dots there where I mean, it felt very, very genuine that he was having a realization. So perhaps,
Yeah.
being asked this question yet again, from the community. I mean, you saw it with Ross Gerber. I think some of us here on the panel as well had that moment where we went, well, maybe advertising prior to dropping prices is worth trying. So I didn't think, I don't think it was a bad thing, but my gut was like, hey, Meet Kevin was sitting in the second row right behind Kimball, and he was asked to ask this question. I'm just kidding. I'm not making any accusations.
Of course not. Okay. You guys are hilarious. Okay, so fine. It's just a very, very clear. I am pro advertising. I think that advertising is important because of all the things you guys said. EVs are no. I'm just saying very clearly here that it's not like they don't understand this. Not like Tesla does not know that they should advertise. They have a purposeful goal to bring the price of EVs to be parity, if not lower, than ICE cars, regardless if they could advertise and keep their margins really high and then sell as many as they want. That's not the goal. The goal is to finally get to the point where they can clearly say, and the world says, the EVs are cheaper than gas. Once you get there, go back and advertise as much as you can. That is what they're doing. And so it's not like he doesn't know. Yes, we should educate. It's not like a big thing, honestly.
Push back, Xander.
I agree with that. That's the ultimate goal. But I think it's a strategy. I believe that they're positioned, like he said, they're positioning the company for the bounce back out of the recession. So that's why they approach it that way, because advertising, it wasn't previously something that they considered.
You can advertise and people can't afford it. What's the point? Is basically his point, right?
Yeah.
So
no, that wasn't his point anymore.
But what about the people that can? What about the people that
we're gonna
can't
have to move
afford
this
it?
because my brain's gonna explode again.
Okay, let's move on. So I think that so what do you guys remember? If you guys remember what happened in that meeting, at what point did you hear him say, this one I am very certain of predicting? This prediction I'm very confident of. Do you guys remember?
No, I'm trying to think about it.
Well, it was when he's talking about bots. And he said,
okay.
My prediction is Tesla's long-term value is Optimus. This prediction I'm very confident on. I want to show this 1-minute video of bots. I just can't stop looking at this, so I want to show it. Holy. So let me tell you this. If a company was doing nothing but bots and they showed me that video and I was able to confirm evidence that this is real, every one of those was doing that thing, I'd be going all in on that company alone. If they had no auto revenue, they had no energy, I'd be going all in with all my money in that video, because what I'm seeing, if these are real, these are 5-6 bots.
He said they were real.
Yeah, and they are. I've had a number of experts that have scoured these videos, and they've proven that they are not CGI. They're not just kind of like taking little pieces. Every time you see a new video, there's updates to the bot, but you can see the dexterity. You can see what it can actually do today. Those bots can do work. Okay. And it's just what was explained to me is that if the work is very, very specifically designed, like moving one item to another item, and able to do it in a timed way, that's enough. that thing can be put in a factory and work, and it's not yet to the level that we are all expecting it to be, but it can already put to work. So they're progressing pretty quickly. I'm just pumped about this. What did you guys think? Yeah.
I finally agree with you.
Perfect.
That if you ask me the number one reason I would invest in Tesla, it would be that. That to me was amazing. Like when I see that bot walking and it did that, like I thought that was the best part of the meeting. For me, it's bot is everything, because bot, like I said before, it's doable. It's something you can do. You don't need government get involved. Maybe you can do it, maybe you can't. Like we can see it getting better and better, and they're working on it. You see the team working on it. That is the number one reason to own Tesla long term is Tesla bot, in my opinion.
Yeah,
That's
what
a
I
game
like
changer.
about their approach to Tesla bot is they very early on set a unit economics target, excuse me, for the bot, and they set one that's achievable, and they set one that's fairly inexpensive. And I'm sure that's what they're battling internally right now is, okay, here's the functionality we're seeing in prototypes, here's where we're at in terms of like performance, and here's where we're at from cost, and what are the trade-offs. Tesla isn't just they're not just tinkering and building $1 million production level prototypes that will never scale. The same approach to FSD, where they put the cost structure in kind of the network they're building with Dojo and with the OpEx and the engineering team, and they said the variable cost of FSD in each automobile we're going to minimize to this very small number so we can put it in every single car. And I see them taking the same approach with bot, which means, so not only do these videos get me excited in terms of like, capability and how quickly they've advanced in the development process, I know in the background that Tesla is designing their bot like they design their cars, and they're designing something that can actually scale.
Jeff, I'd like to push back. I learned some non-public information. Just kidding. I've confirmed that the plants that are in the factory are real, and we have seen the bot pick up the watering can. So I think the first job that the bot's going to have is going to be to water the plants and not actually move stuff from one place to the other.
Yeah, they'll start with small repetitive tasks, and I think it'll move to small assembly steps in the factory. I think material movement. The first thing that anybody does in a by the way, there are robots in factories today. They're not bipedal, but there's obviously, you see the assembly arms, you see those the dreadnoughts, and then there are material robots that actually run on tracks in many different factories. But they're going to be able to take material movement and kind of this repetitive assembly piece. I think are the first things they're going to go after. And that's the number one labor component right now to build products around assembly and material movement. So I believe that's what they're going to target and go after. And again, what I'm excited about is they're building something that can scale economically versus just like these Boston Dynamics things. Like, they're great. I see these things doing flips off of like scaffoldings, but I'm like, how much did that thing cost? And how many can you make within 30 days? No idea. I know Tesla's purposefully building something that can scale economically and can scale in volume.
Absolutely, Jeff. And what's the use case for a Boston Dynamic robot? What's the use case for gymnastics? There's no use case for a Boston Dynamic robot. I don't need a gymnastic robot. I need something to do useful. Why don't they do useful things instead of like dancing and gymnastics? Like, the whole approach is wrong. Tesla's actually, like, when I saw the video and it's at the table just moving, that could be done. Someone in a business could use that, just picking up something and moving over here, whatever it is, like Herbert's napkin thing or whatever. Like, it could be already doing this stuff. Where Boston Dynamics, I don't care about gymnastics. That has no use case. So I think
Herbert,
they're going the right way. Yeah.
Can you call on Harry right mid-chew, please?
What?
Harry for
Harry Bolts. Harry Bolts.
I know how to talk with my mouth full.
Okay, we'll wait for you, Harry Bolts, but you need to tell us what you thought about.
I can talk.
Yeah, go ahead. Okay.
Do you want me to say something about the bot? Do you have a
Oh, I
question,
mean, you
or-
were there. Just say anything. I mean, you were at
Hello.
the
What were
shareholder
What
meeting.
were your
Everybody doing
impressions?
today?
Your overall impressions, Farzad, were you
thought-
impressed?
So my biggest takeaway from like being there is that it was very much a gathering of shareholders that are very long-term focused, and I think that was reflected in the Q&A session. I thought that was the best Q&A session at a shareholder
Yes.
meeting in the history of Tesla, I would say, because all the questions were very focused. They were long-term. They had some sort of purpose behind them, and it wasn't just your usual, what did you have for breakfast, Elon, or something that was completely inconsequential or didn't really matter to the company at all. So I thought that was a big takeaway for me, is that it was, you could feel it from the vibe. The people there really wanted to be there because they really love the company and they wanted to succeed long term. They don't really care about the stock price. They just want to confirm that where the company is going is where they think it's going. And I think Elon having a presence there, especially post Twitter announcement of the new CEO, and the fact that he agreed to trialing advertising. I sent out a tweet as soon as that happened, and I was like, somebody check on Gary Black and make sure he didn't faint from excitement, like somebody check his pulse and make sure he's okay. So that was really cool. Yeah. So it was just generally a very good presentation. I felt it was just very well done. And the more I think about it, what's really fascinating is that we had for the first time ever, Tesla quantified how they're thinking about the value of the robotaxi or full self-driving business for the business. And then when you put that within the context of, they think that bot will be the majority of the value long term. So like there's a lot of math we have to do now. Now we know how they're thinking about it from a mathematical perspective. All of us that are sitting, behind our computer or doing YouTube, videos about where we think it's going to go, we were just kind of, we're doing one of these, right? Like we always are. Even the dudes on Wall Street are, freaking putting their fingers up, and they're wrong most of the time, right? But now we have actual numbers from the company on how they're thinking about the business. And usually when they have targets like these for their long-term aspirations, they're usually pretty good. Like 500,000 cars by 2020, when they set that in 2014, it came to fruition. We're going to be profitable with the Model 3. It came to fruition. Model Y is going to be the best-selling car in the world. It's coming to fruition, right? So they have a track record of when they set these numbers, when they put it out there in the wild, they usually perform. So from that perspective, it was really, really very exciting. And that's sort of my high-level takeaway. There's other thoughts, but I don't want to hog the mic. But that's kind of where I'm at.
Okay, so we just talked about Tesla bot. We are so excited about that. I love what you just said there, Farzad. But let me tell you, what I'm even more excited about was when Elon said that I'm not going anywhere. And the reason I'm not going anywhere is because Tesla has a real lead in real world AI and general AI. And I'm going to be focusing on AI to make this happen. So he's going to make Tesla be known. It's like, is it going to be known as a Tesla energy company by the end of this year? It'll be known as a Tesla bot company because of the progress, but very quickly it will be known as a Tesla AI as an AI company. And earlier, Jeff pointed out the PE ratios of AI companies. Anybody who calls themselves an AI company, but what he then said at the CNBC interview, which got me so pumped, I was just screaming, I was swearing like crazy everywhere, was because I've been talking about this for the last several shows. Every time I've been doing it, I've been saying that at some point Tesla could have a chat GPT moment. And he said that Tesla will have a chat GPT moment. This is a time when it took only 1 month. It took 1 month for AI to come out to shock the world that it can accomplish things way more than it can anybody considered. Something very similar could happen with FSD, where at some point it gets so good that people realize this thing is inevitable. And that, yes, I'm not saying that, it needs to be robotaxi yet, but even supervised human-driven FSD, people will realize this thing is driving. It's not making the mistakes anymore. It's heading in this direction. Once that happens, this is a moment when the world will realize, okay, Tesla's onto something, and they'll start valuing FSD in the stock price. He then said, the other thing that got me excited so much was when he said that we will flip the script and we can beat ChatGPT. Okay, so Tesla is known for real world AI, the ability to understand the environment and then to act on it, to label what they're seeing. But ChatGPT is, of course, this kind of language model. It can understand language and be able to make decisions based on the context. And who's going to win? So I interviewed James Dalma, I interviewed Dave Lee, I've interviewed a number of folks asking him this question: is who's going to end up powering the bots? Is it going to be Tesla's real world AI, or is it going to be ChatGPT? Does it plop into a brain and make it happen? And he said, no, we could beat them at this game. And that's just made me feel better, because I did not realize, and that's the experts' analysis too, by the way. They've all answered to me telling me that you can take what Tesla's done in FSD, and because it's the whole system, it's all the things that they put in place. It's like supercomputers, it's neural nets. You can then do that to eventually do what ChatGPT. So basically, who's going to become it first? So Tesla can become ChatGPT before ChatGPT can do real world labeling and understanding of things. So we are becoming an AI company, and the primary reason Elon says he's going to stay at Tesla is because he's going to make Tesla an AI company. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, sorry.
I was going to say, I brought this up a little bit earlier today. I think
Yes,
that's
you did.
his challenge as a CEO, that he needs to have Tesla valued as an AI company, properly valued as an AI company. I think right now it's been valued as a growing, fast-growing EV secular grower type company with other potential things on top. So it's got a healthy valuation if you put it in an auto category, if you put it in a tech category. But these AI companies, you look at, what was actually labeled as an AI company. Amazon was labeled, Nvidia, and so forth, and they have multiples 70 or 80 in this current environment today. That's already double Tesla's forward EPS or forward multiple. So I think that's one of the challenges actually for Elon and the leadership team, is to get the company properly known as an AI company, because fintech, Wall Street don't think of it. I mean, today they don't think of it as an AI company, and they actually have the most advanced shipping in real world application, real world AI that's out there.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%, Jeff. Like Nvidia is like 160 times. Amazon doesn't even have a multiple now because their EPS, they didn't even have a positive, like they don't even have a multiple. So yeah, Tesla, I think originally when Tesla exploded, do you know what the narrative was? Elon didn't need to communicate anything. We did it on Twitter and the world did it. Oh, they're not just an auto company. They're energy company. They're a robotaxi company. They're this company. That right? That's why it exploded. Like we're thinking of all these things. It's not just this.
Wait,
it's it.
no.
Guess what? All that got lost,
Christian.
and all now we're talking about is margins and cars.
No.
And the company's communicating. Well, hold on, Herbert, and then you could rebuff me. And then it got to the point where everything that Elon was talking about, going on Twitter Spaces and talking about, was if I have to sell the cars at 0%, that's going to affect your valuation, right? For right or for wrong, I understand you're a long-term holder. I get it. But we're living in the present. So what happens is your stock will get, and there was other factors, your stock will get re-rated if they think you're basically an auto manufacturer that has high margins. If you're now an auto manufacturer that has lower margins and you have a little bit of an energy business that's still growing, it gets re-rated down. Now, eventually it'll get re-rated up when all this other stuff comes. But that was the initial. You don't get to a $1.2 trillion valuation on people thinking, oh, this is just a car company. There was other things at play. Yes, there was animal spirits, but there was a lot of people talking about all the things we're talking about now, that it's finally starting to catch up with the general public. So go ahead. Now you can disagree with me.
Okay, thanks, Christian. I mean, you said if you go back in time, and I was there, and I was since 2010, but let's go back in time when it's exploded in 2020. It was a car company. They did not have bots. They didn't have much energy. There was no energy product. There was no talk. There was no talk about anything. The evaluation was strictly on Tesla's auto manufacturing. When they hit the 2018 production of the Model 3, that's when it took off. When they showed the Model Y, it took off, and they started showing the factories. Now, we've talked about this at length. You and I disagree, but the volume is what the 50% growth is what drives stock price. And so the fact this 50% fell and they just confirmed it's 40%, that's why the stock got compressed. The margin compression is a short-term issue for the PE ratio. And like he said, it can go up. There's nothing that stops them. This dynamic pricing. So I would much rather that Tesla continues to build those factories, keep getting the volumes as high as possible, and sell everything with lower margins, because it's the volume. So you keep talking about, they really shouldn't have lowered the margins. Well, if they didn't, the volume would go down and we'd still be at the same stock price and the same margin compression, or not margin compression, but the PE ratio, the ratio being compressed.
I get that point. Now, let me tell you my 2019. The stock started going off in 2019. It went off not just on cars. You know why? Elon was promising robo-taxis. I listened to the conference calls. He said they would be done. He said in 2020 it would be done. People were buying into that, and
he was doing it since 2015. So, but
exactly.
Yes.
But it got more real in 18, 19, and 20.
It wasn't the reason. It was because of Model 3 ramp is what got it.
Let me just finish it. People were buying into that, and we had the free money, and we had a lot of excitement too. I get that, but there was other things than just Tesla is going to be cars and margins. They just turned profitable. That was another reason. But a lot of the excitement was just the hope. Oh, this energy business too they have. Oh, the cars are going to drive themselves. That was a lot of the hype, and that it didn't come to fruition. So as those things took to the back burner, and Tesla became looking like more of a car company, even though they're not. That's why the valuation came down, because a lot of this stuff still has to play out. So I don't think
I don't know. It seems like you forgot about the war. You forgot about the macro. You forgot about people not being able to afford it. And therefore, come on. That's not the reason, Christian.
Herbert, it is the reason. Listen, forget about the war a minute. Apple, Google, they're all rocketing. Tesla is 60% off its highs. Okay.
No one's selling
Apple's
a high expensive car asset. They're not selling expensive car assets.
The stock was decimated. I don't want to go over this again. I don't know why you keep pushing back on me on this. The stock is still languishing. It hit 414. It's sitting at 160 something. Okay. So the valuation, it got all the way down to 300 billion from 1.2 trillion. So if you don't think there was excitement other than just cars at 1.2 trillion, and now you think at this valuation, yes, there's more built in, but it's basically now it is on the valuation. So you're right. So a long-term investor, if you get in now, I think you're going to make a return on your capital. At 1.2 trillion, it was harder to see. But now you can see it as it gets closer to these things happening. So I don't know. I think we just disagree. We think about it differently.
I can help break the tie.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Would you like me to try?
Yeah, please.
Yes.
Okay. I was there. I've been investing since 2013, watching the company every quarter. It just turned profitable, between 2019 and 2020. And if you look at it from an analyst perspective and how they rated the stock, they never gave it a proper forward multiple on the stock. They were always in catch-up mode, okay, until the stock skyrocketed and went to some 125x forward. And then they started putting a higher forward multiple on the stock. So they never actually gave it, analysts never gave it a proper forward multiple. So I don't think, it was definitely it wasn't just they're building more cars, like they're building more Model 3s. And it wasn't just that. It wasn't just their PEG ratio. They were, Tesla had announced the intentions of having a robo-taxi business and having all these things coming online. And, that was part of the model, because if you looked at where other auto was and what they were shipping and what their margins were, that's where the head scratching was coming in, in the industry. So we can agree to disagree on some of these things, but I agree with you, Herbert, like where the compression came was basically Tesla's earnings are momentarily now under compression and becoming lower. But, Tesla was given a much higher multiple based on forward promises. And I think just now we're actually getting much closer to those things actually happening. And that's what I think is really exciting. And for whatever reason, the markets and analysts seem to overcorrect in both directions. I think they overcorrected for 2024. and we'll see what happens. I think 2023 is going to be that year where is the transition, but I believe they've overcorrected for 2024, and that's where the surprise is going to come in.
Can I share my thoughts here before I just want to real quick, and then I'm going to jump out because I have to go downtown. But from my standpoint, the most positive thing, the biggest positive takeaway for me is that Elon Musk has been able to speak his mind on Twitter, saying all kinds of stuff that people find super controversial. He's hired somebody there to lead the charge, and he's still going to continue saying that. He delivered a very positive message to Tesla shareholders. From everyone I've been talking to, everybody's super excited about the trajectory of the company. Full self-driving is about to come to fruition. And like I said, Elon is saying whatever he wants, and the stock is up after hours. That's a huge deal. That is a huge deal because Elon's operating exactly how he wants to operate. And the company, the stock is still performing, it's not performing negatively, it's performing positively given all the news today. And there might be a delay in recognizing that value in the short term potentially because of some of these dynamics. But it's clear that the company wants to become undeniable from the standpoint of the value proposition it brings to customers, and then the stock price will follow in accordance. And the fact that we're at this joint, like at this point now, where Elon can be Elon, he can be Elon on Twitter, and then Twitter has somebody at the helm, and Tesla's still building all this stuff, and Elon's going to stay there for the foreseeable future. To me, this feels like a chapter has been closed. We've closed the chapter, and now we've opened the new one, and this new one is AI is about to get crazy. Who knows what the hell is going to happen? But I'm in it for the ride, and if it crashes, it crashes. If it goes to the moon, it goes to the moon. But it's going to be fun. So that's really my biggest takeaway, is that a chapter has been closed, and the new one has been opened, and the new one appears to be very exciting based on the trajectory of the company. Yeah. Cool. All right, I got to go.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Farzad.
Bye, everybody.
Go ahead, Sat.
There's a couple of things I actually want to comment on the ad part briefly. The thing about before the ads happen, there needs to be three things that happen. So where does it? Where can you charge it? Where can you service it? And how far does it go? And how much you pay per month? If you don't clear those stuff, it doesn't matter how much you talk about safety or ads. Issue. If you don't have those infrastructures in there, then you can't do advertising and then increase it because the rest of the car market has all the infrastructure. They don't have to worry about any of that stuff. That's why they have to advertise to distinguish themselves in some other form besides those four things. That's why safety comes in as a bigger factor. So when there are a couple of people in the shareholders saying, oh, safety, other people don't know about safety, the primary reason why a soccer mom is going to choose that car. If it doesn't meet their demands of the daily life and how you use it, it doesn't matter how much you advertise. The other thing is the advertising can't be the advertising like the other OEMs because I don't get any information from that besides the price and this 5-star thing, right? Which is not, doesn't really give you the difference between the other one that's still 5 stars. So it has to be different. And I hope they do something different and more innovative than just the advertising, just a cool car going through some nice nature. Like, I don't want that. The advertising in this way has to change for what it serves in the EV space. There's a reason why they're opening up the superchargers and all that. So this whole safety and ads that's going to do it. No, it's like they did the price cut. It's lower than the average price. And you have infrastructure advertised. And hopefully they do it through Twitter and do it in a format that's different, that's more Tesla-like. So in that sense, I could be on board. But I'm not on board in doing ads if you don't meet those 4 other criteria first. And the problem in the Midwest or so forth, their income is lower too. So the price has to be met first before you can go and do the ads. And then there's the other aspect is, well, how much more Model Y? Like on an annual basis in the SUV market, right? How much more are you going to sell? Like, are you going to sell like 3 million, up to 3 million? Like, what's the cap on it? Because no amount of advertising is going to get you over that threshold of that market. And the other thing is like, there's other practical parts where you can afford a Model Y, but you can't necessarily get it because of the infrastructure or the housing or the streets or wherever you're at. Like, it's not just about affordability in that sense too. So there's other minor hurdles. So I just want to point that out. The other part of the catalyst that you're talking about, part of that whole run up in the 10X or 20X run up was because 100K was promised by Hertz. That was a huge thing. Like, nobody has publicly said that kind of large amount, right? So they're seen primarily as a car company. They're going off 50%, and car rental companies dedicating that much and buying it just like everyone else, just like we are. So I think there's certain catalyst that was there that pushed it. Yeah, there's other factors, but that was the main factor as a car company. This shareholder meeting, he's basically said the future of Tesla, the majority is going to be the AI side, the Optimus side. It's not going to be the cars. That's in the hope that the energy that you see the shift in that, and I think that's the biggest difference to what happened in this shareholder meeting.
Yeah, I love it, Zach. Couple things to your points. The Hertz thing, that came at like the tail end, right? That was like the last hurrah after Elon failed, that one point. Yeah, I agree with you there. With the advertising, fully agree with what you're saying there. But I do think, Tesla is not going to do it like everyone else does it. They're going to put their own spin on it. And I'm very confident that Elon's going to find the right people to do this, right? Well, why would we think he could do everything else, but he can't hire and get the right people to get the right vision out? So I agree with you, but think of this image, and then we can move it. Imagine a commercial for me or for someone that doesn't know all this. Like we're living and breathing this. Imagine a person that sees a Tesla drive, and it's a beautiful car to begin with. They're going to say, "Wow, what is that?" The first time I saw a Tesla, I stared at it for like 10 minutes. I never saw anything like it. It was a Model 3. Maybe I'm just a crazy person. I looked at that car and I was engaged with it. I said, I've never seen anything quite like that. And I couldn't put my finger on it, but I would just stare at it in awe. So that was just me. I loved it. So I think if people just see it, that's one thing. Now imagine getting out of the car in whatever ad you're doing and you get the supercharger, right? It looks just like a gas station thing, but and you plug it in. It's just like getting a gas thing and putting it in. I know it's not gas, but when they see that, they're going to go, wow. And then imagine showing a garage where hold on, Xander, where you don't have to go to a gas station and you could be on your own home and you can then just put the thing in. You know how many people's brains are going to go, wow, I didn't know that even existed. I'm telling you, there's a lot of people that can afford the product that do not know about it. I guarantee you, Sat. I talk to people all day. They have no idea what a Tesla is. They have no idea you can charge it. They have no idea Tesla even has a supercharger network. They have no comprehension that they could go around the country and put the thing in anywhere in America, which essentially you can. So that is.
Well, it's worse than that.
Itself.
There's a disinformation campaign out there too. Depending on like what TV stations you watch, these cars, they catch on fire more, all these things that are wrong. There's a gigantic disinformation campaign out there as well. So I agree on the priorities. And I think this is something that, great CEOs spend time on to say, like, what is the right ad for my company that represents what I want to do? And eventually when they do it on their time scale, I think they're going to do a very good, thoughtful ad that would be approved and loved by Elon and his team. So I see that happening. But I do think, in my family, at least 80% in my family, again, we're in we're in the Midwest, but we're not living amongst corn. We're in the Chicago area. And I would say like 80% of my family, they don't have the awareness. They think they're not as safe. They don't understand how they're going to charge, and they think they're going to run out of battery. And if we can get that message, I know we're starting to beat a dead horse, but that message could get across. I think it would be very meaningful.
But having Tesla gallery 100%.
Yeah.
And the other part is that EV advertisement has been around for the other OEMs, but it doesn't take off. Like the way that everyone's talking about ads, like somehow if it's Tesla, it's going to take off, but the other cars don't. The other OEMs EVs don't because they're cheaper, but they don't meet these criteria. They need to meet the 4 criteria before they can.
Well, they don't have supply either, so they see the ad and they go to the store and there's no car there.
They have no supply, and guess what? During the commercial, they don't even say it's an EV. They just do it. Like I'm telling you, I hear what you're saying, and I know you're the OG Tesla that we don't need advertising, word of mouth. Like
no,
I'm telling you. No, I know. I know he's not saying that, but I'm saying I don't think, and you too, Herbert. I don't think you appreciate the power that if you can put something together and put it out there. I can't wait till this happens because I want all the people that say that advertising, oh, it's not going to matter, they can't afford it.
Wait,
Everyone
can you
knows. That is the silliest argument
stop?
I've ever heard, Herbert.
Nobody. Okay, do not. You keep not hearing when I say that I am not against advertising, and they should be advertising. They should be educating, and so forth. I'm against when people say that Teslas are so dumb. The executives are so dumb. Don't they know? Everything you guys just said, it's pretty straightforward, pretty logical. Yes, people don't know about Teslas. They don't know about the safety. You got it. They should advertise, and that's going to move things. They have other priorities. They're going to do advertising now. I'm not against advertising, so don't go and say, see, when they're advertising, see the rise? Yes, perfect. It's going to match the production level of sales that's going to happen. That's great. Okay, we spent a lot of time on that. Can we move to another topic? FSD is something that obviously is a big deal. Elon showed a chart and he said FSD beta is growing hyper exponentially. This chart will look like a wall. He then talked about that there's one last piece of the neural net, the planning and control function. He talked about how, over time, it's going to be 10 times safer than a person, not even a contest. And the fact that this is going to be, he says the same things over and over again. And I know it's like beating a dead horse, but because he said it so often, but it sure feels like he, did you guys think that he is genuine in his voice, that he feels like this is it, it's going to happen? He tried to stop himself from saying it because he knows it's silly. But at some point, when you hear what is it they call the boy who cried wolf, you stopped reacting to it. But one day it happens. And I think we are that close. I think that it'd be a mistake if we all start going, yeah, not now. It's going to be, 5 years from now. No, it's coming sooner than we realize. And he knows better than we all do. Now, I know that he got caught because of this rate limiting, structure that when they create a program, asymptote can't improve anymore, need to do it again. But if we're about there, that can happen. What do you guys think? This is a big deal, right? If this happens, this is going to just rocket the stock. So for many of us who thinks, oh, it's going to be 5 years from now, do people here still think it's going to be 5 years?
It depends what is the endpoint that we're talking about. I think that's part of the problem. We have two things that we don't know. We don't know what it is. Like, is this a driver assistance feature where the human is behind the steering wheel and in touch with it every 10 seconds? I think that maybe they are within 1 to 2 years on something like that. So I think they need to clearly define what it is and what the margin structure is around it. And if they have, then they have. Well,
so what he said was, he said that FSD is not just about engagement, disengagement. It's to the point that we're going to work on the Arch of Nines to get to 10 times safer than a person. But here's what I'm talking about, right? We're all Tesla investors. That's what I care about right now, because it could take 5 to 10 years before robotaxi is a real deal and you can open up your app and invite something. But just carry this forward. I mean, this is where my mind is going through right now. Today, we are using FSD as a driver assistance program, right? It's called human supervised FSD. And today that's safer. Now, there comes a point when human supervised FSD, that's all it needs to be. It doesn't need to be any different than what it is now, but the car is taking you and it's not making the stupid mistakes anymore. There comes a point when the general public starts realizing this is inevitable. It's going to happen in 35 years. True robotaxi. Stock will start to rise at that point. There's no need for you to wait till the actual regulation to happen before people see this is inevitable. And so that's what I'm saying. I think that the stock will rise even with human supervised FSD.
To be a little bit provocative, this is a hard, I've been chief quality officer of a major, Fortune 50 company and, overseen the rollout of, 4G, 3G, 2, all these different air standards to ship a product to market, major products to market. And we are outside of Tesla. We are operating off of we're in an information void. I don't know the disengagements per mile driven. I can't tell you if it's getting closer or if it's getting farther. All I can tell you is my personal experience when I drive, 4 miles to the grocery store and back. And that's just not very helpful information. So if if Tesla wanted to share that information, because they have over 400,000 subscribers, and they can understand the disengagements and what are the degree, what's a severity 1 disengagement where safety is involved, where is there a disengagement where it just was an annoyance. If they can kind of measure like majors versus minors and understand like what that graph is doing over time, I could answer the question, or I could know as an investor how close is this really to being prime time. But right now we're kind of operating off of, just it's kind of like word of mouth. There's hundreds of us on Twitter that are driving with it, and some people are saying like I have all these problems, and some people are saying it's the most perfect thing in the world. And for me, kind of from my background perspective, I would want to see a graph, and I would want to know how many hours this thing's been in use, and how many miles have been driven, and what are the disengagements per time and by mile, and then I could make an assessment to answer the question. And going back, Herbert, I agree. They did define, you're correct. They did define it being 10 times safer than a human, but then it actually has to be in the wild to produce those results. So you actually know it's safer or not, versus some internal metrics to know, is it safe to release more broadly?
Yeah, aren't you? I'm sure you are. Weren't you? Did you forget that they actually released that data literally 2 weeks ago, and they showed that a supervised FSD is already today 6 times safer than humans.
Yes, correct.
Okay. So that was their metric. And they did share the millions of miles. They just showed you a graph that showed you how many millions of miles this thing is driving already. It's not about disengagement. It's not about on the road to robotaxi. What I'm talking about is supervised human supervised FSD. Still putting your hands on the wheels. That's already safer today. Right?
So the metric there is collisions, and that's a good metric. That's a park it. That's a good one. But as a driver, like I just don't want, like, okay, I knock on wood, I haven't had a collision in 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. For me, I would want to understand when I engage this to go from point A to point B, am I ever going to have to touch it? Yes or no? If I am, and I've got to be careful, and if it's going over a double yellow line, then I'm going to turn it off. So I want another set of data below the crash statistics to understand it better. But again, that's just me, and that would help me understand as an investor, is this ready for the wife? Is this ready for grandma? Is this ready for anybody to just get in the car, press a button, and go? Because I think Elon has the right metrics on the team, which is input is error. And that is the right metric to get it ready for grandma. And I'd love for them to tell us how close are they to getting there, besides the crash statistics, which is one good data point.
I agree. Like, they put the data out. Let me try to break this tie. Let me put on, like, I'm a dummy with this. So Herbert thinks the stock's going to rise on it. So let me just try to explain it from like someone who buys the stock. And from 2019 is when I got involved. So 2019, Elon promised it. 2020, Elon promised it'll be done. 2021, he promised it. 2022, he promised it. And on 2023, on the last conference call, he promised it again. I think it'll be by the end of the year. And we heard chuckles. So I'm not saying it won't be done, but I don't think that people are going to start buying Tesla stock on FSD after, like you said, the boy that cried wolf. And I'm not saying you can't buy the stock for that happening, but I don't think institutions are going to be running out buying it on that specific reason, Herbert. So I don't disagree with you. What I'm saying is there's many other reasons other than that reason to go buy the stock. So that's just the way I think about it.
What I'm saying is that it's not going to happen because Elon said we did it. It's going to happen when people are seeing that it's no longer making these mistakes. And so there comes a time when the neural net picks up and it learns how to do this, and it's an exponential curve. The other metric, Jeff, that I would mention that they did share is the uptake of an FSD. So you and I drive this thing, we see how many disengagements, we have our own feeling of, is it worth it or not? But if he's showing you the actual numbers of FSD uptake, this is the actual internal number. If that's going up, that means the general public is seeing value in this supervised FSD. So there's going to be a time. I'm almost there, by the way, which is I let the car drive as this beta, and I've got my hands there, and I'm very, very careful, and I'm looking everywhere. But I actually feel safer. Because I know that this car has 8 cameras, and if it sees something, it might not hit it. Now there's going to be a moment when it might do something dumb, and so I'm prepared for that. But there comes a time when I feel like it's going to do less dumb things than that chance of me hitting something when I shouldn't have because it was there and I saw it and it moved away from another car coming to me. So we're almost there. And when that hits, when that comes through, people will want to buy this and they're seeing the uptake. And so if the uptake is there because people try it, it makes all mistakes, they're done. Yeah, it's not, maybe it's, I'm not saying it's ready today. I'm not. I'm saying there comes a time, and the longer we wait. Yeah. So in fact, when you say Christian, he's been saying this for many years, perfect. The longer he's been saying that, the more likely we're going to finally hit the moment when it happens. And so again, sure, that's not throwing a table for you guys, but for me, that's why I invest. I invest because I'm planning ahead of what other people can't see. Absolutely. And I can see that it's headed in that direction. It's about to happen. I'm going to go put my bet ahead of everyone else, and then we'll see if I win. Yeah.
No, I'll just wrap it up. I agree with you. I'm not saying it's a negative. I'm just saying you're saying there's going to be a moment, and there will be a moment. But what I'm saying is we don't know if the moment is 3 months from now, 6 months from now, or maybe 2 to 3 years from now. And I think you can't take the possibility that it might take a few more years off the table. There is some probability that this is a little bit harder. Like Elon said, local maximums, things come up, and it may be a longer process. So I think if you just bet if you're just as an investor saying, I invest in Tesla because of FSD, I think that's not the right way to do it. I think you need to have these other things as buffers because there is,
of course,
greater than a 0% chance that FSD never happens.
What I like about it is, sorry, Herbert.
I guess, well, I'll tell you. So you just said something about 2 years. Hey, I'll take that. If it comes in 2 or 3 years, oh my God, I want, because see the jump of the stock price once FSD is seen as inevitable is so crazy that I'm willing to wait 2 or 3 years. Now, if you told me 5 years or may never happen, okay, that scares me a little bit, and maybe I'm not ready to go. But I think that the vast majority of us agree, based on what we've seen and the data we've seen, that it can actually possibly happen in 2 to 3 years. So I'm willing to make that bet today. So that's.
I think we should hit. I think we should hit one more topic because I think there's something that could move the stock tomorrow. But just to wrap up this FSD thing, from a unit economics perspective, I don't think anybody is developing anything that's close that can actually scale. That's why I'm actually bullish on Tesla, because I do see the fact that they have this real world AI approach and they're going to get there, and they're going to get there with the lowest unit economics that I see available in the world. I think everybody else is working on something that's kind of more lab bound, that can't scale economically or can't scale from a supply perspective. If you look at LiDAR, if you look at the cost curves on that, it's going to take a while. So I'm actually very bullish on the fact that I think it can actually scale. There's one thing that was brought up during the meeting. I was like, what are your top 3 takeaways that I didn't hit? Was, this kind of soft unveiling of this, the body style, this Gen 3, and Elon kind of mentioning that there's maybe 2 different vehicles in that tier that I know it clicked for Gary. I know it clicked for others. I'm like, okay, how are they going to get 5 or 10 million extra units per year? And they kind of said like they're doing 2 things in that time frame that are kind of at that lower or more affordable tier. I thought that was a huge takeaway.
Can you explain that?
Herbert,
because when I heard,
go.
Okay, thank you, Sat. Appreciate
Thanks,
you.
Sat.
Yeah.
When they said 2
Thanks,
new products, I just assumed, I just still heard the same 2 products that they shared previously, which is the van and the compact car. Did you guys think that there's 2 additional products?
Yeah, no, yeah, he said it, and I don't know how explicit they were about a van versus, to me it others were having a takeaway of like a smaller Model Y and maybe something that's even a kind of a smaller Model 3 or sedan. I don't know. I think we have to. I want to go back and look at it a little bit more. But to me, from Investor Day, it was maybe a larger vehicle in Gen 3 and then this more affordable thing. And now what I kind of heard in the meeting, I got to go back and maybe listen to it again. It's one of those things, Herbert, where all of us listened to it and maybe we heard different things, but I kind of heard 2 affordable vehicles in that space that could actually soak up a lot of volume.
No, I agree. And I don't know if you guys, if you want to wrap up soon, but did you want to touch on that one moment? I don't want to make a big
Yes.
deal out of it, but I think it was important because this is going into Elon, and he had the interview, right? Everyone's going to say it, and it affects public discourse, right? The moment where Elon was asked about his tweets, and Faber got pretty intense. He talked about the George Soros tweet and the ramifications of that. He talked about another tweet about just very controversial stuff, and Elon paused for about 20 to 30 seconds and finally gave an answer. And he was very kind of, this is the first time he kind of like stiff upper lip and, okay, you want to go there? And he kind of went there. So I just want to get Herbert, I'd just love to get your opinion on that. And Jeff, how do you think Elon handled that? And do you think going forward, the public will view Elon differently, or Elon will change? I know he said he wouldn't change his behavior, but do you think he'll have some pressure from the board of directors, because it is a public company? That's a little bit of the thing. And again, I'm not making, this is a very civil discussion. It is a public company and people own the company, and he has a certain duty as a CEO to provide shareholder value, even in some short to medium term, right? You don't want your stock just being held down because the CEO is just kind of doing whatever he wants and doesn't have any type of, I don't think any of us would say that, because when I work, I couldn't do whatever I wanted. I just couldn't spout off to customers, hey, I'm just going to start talking about this. I'm going to throw my beliefs down your back. Like, I'd be fired in a second. I understand he's the CEO, but there are limits to what everyone can do. There are limits. So I want to get Jeff, your perspective on that, and I want to get Herbert, your perspective on that.
Let me get started. So first of all, I'm totally happy that he was asked that question. I don't want Elon to be doing what he's doing with the Twitter. That it's not, like you said, is a CEO of Tesla. It's an investment mind. I don't want him to ruffle the feathers, just like he is now. 50% of the population are refusing to buy Teslas, and it's unfortunate. But what I saw it differently than you did, which is I'm glad that Faber asked that question. And then when he paused 30 seconds, to me, it wasn't that he was shocked that he was asked the question. He was contemplating how he's going to answer it, and that he refuses to back down with his belief that the freedom of speech is more important, and that he said it, right? I will rather lose money, and he has, with advertisement, as long as he felt like, are you telling me I can't say these things, and I'm going to say it regardless? I don't care. That's why he paused. And then he finally just couldn't help himself and said it. I'm going to do it. So I'm not happy, because I don't want him to do these things. But I also feel like, just like what Farzad said earlier, we're probably at the point now where he's already said so many things that has pissed off everybody, that everybody's been pissed off, and right? The more, it's just more like he just keeps saying it, and you'll lose more people. But at the end of the day, it's almost like it's Elon being Elon. It's what people will say, and you either just get past it or not. But yeah, I don't want him to do it, but he's going to do it. He's basically is what he's saying. You can't stop me.
Yeah, I think he's very, when he has these long pauses, actually thinks about, what he's going to say. And my guess is CNBC kind of gave him a rough list of like, these are the areas we're gonna talk about. We are gonna ask you about your political tweets, and maybe they didn't have it specifically, one for one. But I do think he's very thoughtful in his response. It was a long pause. But I actually thought there were some other very provocative points too when he was asked about, the president, and he was asked, he's like, can we just have a normal person? I'd rather, pick somebody from the phone book. And he was even going back and referring to the prior president, current one. So I think there were a number of provocative things. I'm going to have to rewatch the interview to kind of soak it all in. But I do agree with Herbert and you, Christian, that there's been a high volume of this activity out there. So it's not like it's going to kind of shock the world when they see it. But I do think a lot of people, that's a good question. I don't know a large portion of like suburbia that watches CNBC at 5 or 6 p.m. At night. So I don't know what kind of like uptake this will actually get. But it was definitely one of his, first long form interviews on a fintech channel for sure. And I thought David Faber asked very good questions, very thoughtful. I thought he was thoughtful in his response, but of course he was provocative, and he's not going to kind of come off of this thing of like, I believe I should be able to say what I want. I do believe he thinks he needs to be measured at times, but I think his idea of what being measured is and others are completely different. And the one thing I will give him in this situation is I do believe other CEOs express political beliefs. They all just tend to flow in one other direction, and nobody notices it because they're, and we can go through maybe in a different YouTube broadcast about that. But I think others are, but he's more of it, and he's definitely unique in some of his thoughts. Anyway, so it's interesting. I don't know if it's going to do anything, near term, but I do think the shareholders meeting was overall very well received. I think the interview was very well received. I think they were able to touch on a number of topics. I mean, CNBC made it look like it was their Super Bowl. They had another room with 4 or 5 analysts that were analyzing what he was saying, and it was kind of like a Super Bowl event for CNBC. So interesting.
No, I love both your perspectives. I'll just say real quick, I don't know what the stock will do tomorrow. I'm just telling you from my gut, I'm pretty good at feeling like when the stock was up over 1%, when that moment came, that awkward moment, it still was up, but it went down to like 0.7%. So there was somebody, playing around. Well, I don't really like that. Now we're getting a little into like it's getting back into politics away from the business, right? And that's what keeps share prices suppressed. I know we don't care because we can buy it cheaper. Herbert is in it for the long term. I get all that. But at some point, you do want Elon to pivot a little bit. At some point, we do know his views. So I don't know what I'm trying to get. We can wrap it up on this, but I think this is super important. And Faber kind of said it too. Like you could talk to your friends about it. Maybe you go like, is it necessary to broadcast your opinion about every single controversial topic? Is that absolutely necessary? Now, to Elon, he said, it's free speech. I can say what I want. I get that. But we have to be a little bit real here. Like there is no other CEO that have done anything to this level, right? And it's accelerated with Elon's Twitter. So I just want to say that I hope, for me personally, I've said this before, I want Elon to say what he wants to say. There's things that I want to say right now that I'm not going to say because Herbert would get canceled. Okay. So there has to be some type of a little bit of a decorum. And like you said, Jeff, Elon does it all the time. He self-censors himself at meetings, at interviews. He's very nice. But it seems like when he gets on Twitter, it just explodes. And guess what? Going and doing those tweets is just like saying it to David Faber, right? Because we're all internalizing it and millions of people are seeing it, right? And it has an effect on us, right? And it has an effect on consumers' purchasing patterns, right? Because maybe I was going to buy a Tesla. I saw a couple good tweets. And it was a woman, and she said she had a son, and he was going to get his car for the first time. And he always wanted a Tesla. He loves Elon Musk, but they're not buying the Tesla because of the recent things. Now, that's just an anecdotal version, but I'm saying it does have an impact at the margins, right? There are people that may say, I really do want a Tesla, but whether you agree with it or not, it's just so hard now because, it's going against everything I believe. And I think Herbert kind of said that before. I don't think it's going to have a long-lasting impact, but I think there does need to be at least some type of recognition of the board of directors to just have a sit down and say, look, we love you, Elon, but please just a little bit around the edges, keep it a little bit focused in. Now, maybe I'm in the minority on that, and most people
he
say
may be already there, Christian. That this may be his curb back Twitter right now. We don't know that.
Yeah, that's possible. And let's see what Linda Vaccarino, Yaccarino. She is going to be, I think, in the ear of Elon, right? Because as she goes for advertisers, and Elon's doing all this stuff, it's making her job really hard. So let's see. And I hope Linda can, get into his head a little bit and say, just like this guy, Ari Emanuel, got the interview with Faber, hopefully Yaccarino can be respected by Elon, where he could say, look, Elon, if you want Twitter to be successful, I need to bring advertisers in. And you're not doing me any favors by what you're doing. So maybe that'll help. So I don't know. And you guys could close it now.
Yeah. So let me close it out by just repeating. I think that this shareholder meeting was one of the best shareholder meetings I've been. I am a Tesla bull. I'm even more bullish right after this meeting. If we review some of the things that happened today, first of all, JB Straubel has been approved to be on the board member. Many of us were supportive of that. Elon confirmed he's not going anywhere. And more importantly, he confirmed the reason he's not going anywhere is because he believes that Tesla has a real chance at AI. It's the leader in AI. and he's going to stick around to make sure that it happens. That alone is big news for me. Alexandra, Tesla Boomer Mama, asked the question of what is the peak margin? How much margin can you get with the cars and energy if everything works out well? He said 80% on the cars. This is with FSD and with service. This is something we've been wanting to understand because it's a promise. But if FSD and service comes into play, they're going to get 80% gross margin, Christian. You're going to be through the roof, happy, and not be worried about an 18%. Then he said that the next 12 months is going to be challenging. But once we get past this, and it's a cycle, once the global economic environment turns, and he thinks it's in 12 months. 12 months from now, let's say a year and a half, it turns. Tesla is very well positioned. Stock will certainly skyrocket at that point because it's depressed right now because of that. It won't be darkness forever, is what he said. He then said, my prediction is Tesla's long-term value is the Optimus. We showed the video. That was an amazing video. I think all of us were impressed with how fast it's improved. They've shown 6, they're going to show 10, they're going to show 20, but it's more like the dexterity of the hands and what it can do. And things are improving very quickly. That alone, I told you, if I just saw that and there was a company that did that, I'd be putting all my money into that company if I confirmed that this was real.
I agree with you 100%.
Advertising, okay, they're going to do advertising. So we're going to get the best of all worlds. The price is cut. It's now lowest everybody can afford, average sales price of cars. It's affordable, and they're going to advertise. And they have the money. They can do this. And then again, back to the CyberTruck being surprising customers. This product's better than expectations. He confirmed the delivery date will happen in third quarter. He said that there's going to be a slow move and then it'll be accelerating. But he's cautious because it's a brand new way of manufacturing they've never done before. But he's very confident that it's going to be a well-received product. And so we'll see that. And then, for me, was all about ChatGPT and AI. This company, he said that we will have a ChatGPT moment, which is what I'm saying. If FSD has a ChatGPT moment, which is this realization by the world that it's inevitable, not that it's there, not that it has to be robotaxi is approved, just the fact that there's a realization by the world that they are on path to getting robotaxi 5 years from now, that alone is enough for the stock to skyrocket. And that he said, we're going to put so much effort in AI that we're going to beat ChatGPT on the game. We can get there before they can get to us. I know. I don't know. I was just so happy with that.
Great summary.
So, thanks to everybody. So this is CyberBulls. It's a show about investing, and you can see that we have different investing styles. We often like to debate in a very friendly way how we differ, but it's a way for you to better understand it. And we love Tesla, you can imagine. So please tune in. We're normally on at Wednesdays at 12 noon Pacific time, this channel. So this was a special episode because of the shareholder day. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you. See you guys soon.
A lot of fun, guys.